uh, on another note and talk about some of the stuff you've done outside of the pro wrestling industry and writing. I know you've been involved with a lot of charity groups and have done stuff in your community. Talk to me about some of the stuff you've helped out with over the years.
The primary thing that I've helped out with, and I don't know if this is typical or atypical of the people you have on your program, but the primary thing I've done was the years I served as a volunteer firefighter here in Durham County. I was a guy who always worked out. Oliver Bateman. I don't know if you know Oliver Bateman. In my opinion, he's the best writer in the world, period. He happens to write about pro wrestling along with an assortment of other topics that he's just a master in. And he's the guy who pulled me into the Ringer as one of the Ringer's wrestling writers. He's the reason I got my name on the byline of the Ringer's Hulk Hogan obituary. I owe so much to that guy. It's crazy. Like alongside Kenny Casanova, like those are the two guys I know the most to as far as helping me advance as a wrestling writer. But Oliver is like me. Well, okay. I need to be careful comparing myself to him because Oliver can deadlift probably 700 pounds or more right now, as we sit here. He's just a monster of a human being. But he and I are kindred spirits in as much as we couldn't watch all of the fit guys in pro wrestling and not be inspired to work out incessantly ourselves. So I was a guy who always worked out at least 4 days a week for the most part, barring injury. Uh, every day of my life from the time I don't want to count when I was in swim practice as a 7-year-old, but from the time I got to high school, so let's say age 13, 14, um, 4 days a week, 4 to 5 days a week on average, straight up until the present day, except not right now because I just had shoulder replacement surgery. So even in this, there's a cautionary tale. Your joints are going to wear down if you work out long enough and hard enough. But in the midst of that, I was still competing as a swimmer. And once I stopped swimming, it just occurred to me, I'm not going to be in above average or even average physical shape forever. And working out for the sake of your health, that's cool. Working out just so that you can look appealing, great. I've certainly done it. Working out so that you can be great at your sport of choice, like swimming in my case, yes, absolutely. But then there was this idea of, okay, I'm if I'm only strong for a certain period of my life, I should probably devote some of that to the service of others. Like I should at least try to. Um, if God has blessed me in this way, like not that God blessed me with incredible genetics, but if He blessed me with the time and the drive to get myself in shape, did I actually use it in the service of others, or was I just using it in the service of myself? And so I thought it would be a good idea to try to devote myself physically to my community by becoming a volunteer firefighter. And so I started training, ironically, with the Bahama, Bahama. Everyone pronounces it Bahama. I certainly did too. So the half Bahamian winds up on the Bahama volunteer fire, working for the Bahama Volunteer Fire Department. But yeah, I became a volunteer firefighter.
That is so cool. Getting the chance to serve and protect others from harm, from danger. Tell me about was there like a time or a moment that meant so much to you as far as going out and saving a life?
I didn't have, okay, so Durham County versus Durham City. Durham City is where you get like the hardcore professional full-timers. Durham County is way more rural. You're more out in farm territory. And there you would get a lot of brush fires. And so the most um I don't know because I never felt like I was in danger, but when the instance where there was actually a blaze going and you're like, "Oh wow, that's a serious fire." Like it was a brush fire where you're out in the brush truck and you're spraying foam and you're just trying to control it so that it burns itself out. Um, and we got there early enough, so we weren't really worried about any serious damage happening to the residents, which was about 60, 70 yards away from the fire. Um, we got it under control. So I don't have any stories about saving lives, but as far as feeling, I can say as far as feeling the appreciation of the community, like there were several instances where people they're coming by with their kids and they're dropping food off and other things off at the firehouse and they're saying like thank you for everything you do and I'm saying like hey I'm not the skilled guy here I'm just a volunteer. I'm not a big deal. It's these other guys, but they're still, they appreciate you and they're thankful that you, especially as a volunteer, that you're not getting paid for it, but you devoted your time and you're spending nights away from your family, just in case something happens, that you're the guy who's going to respond to it. And that's very touching to see that they have that level of appreciation. And frankly, I never felt like I was worthy of it because I was just a guy who was there helping out.
Well, you were making a difference, in a time where it was very stressful and people need someone in their life to help them get through that, and you were there for them.
Well, look, again, the volunteers in the volunteer fire department, they tend to try to minimize our exposure to certain things. So I never felt like I was at I never felt like I was at any serious risk of injury. But again, I'm also not the guy sitting on the sidelines hoping that someone else responds to the dangerous thing. Um, One of the reasons I did it was because I I also wanted to condition myself to be the guy where if something bad happens, I'm not running in the opposite direction hoping that someone else shows up to take care of it. I'm going out and doing something about it. Here, I'll tell you a really quick story because this is recent. A week and a half, 2 weeks ago, I was out walking the dog at 6:30 in the morning, getting ready to head off to my physical therapy appointment. Even now, I can't even raise my left arm past. I mean, you see me on the screen. I can't raise it to parallel to the ground. It was even worse then. But there was a lady in our subdivision who was walking around with her child saying that that her other 3-year-old was missing, probably autistic. She didn't know where he was, and she said, well, she asked me if I'd seen him. I said no, and she said, well, if you see him, can you let me know? And I said, yeah, of course. Now, a few years ago, in that moment, I would have said, okay, if it's convenient for me, if I happen to spot him, I'll say something, but I won't actively do anything about it. I put the dog in the house. I went right back out. I saw the direction she was heading in. I decided to turn toward the lake and the new construction site because I figured that would be the most dangerous place for this kid to possibly go in our subdivision. I walk a block down, I make a right, I see this little 3-year-old in socks walking across the street from where the lake is into the active construction zone with all the hazards. So I head over there, and so I'm standing right next to him, and this is where it got weird for me internally because this kid doesn't know me. And I was raised with stranger danger in mind. So I'm like, okay, don't be a weird creep to kids. Um, and I'm standing right next to him saying, "Hey, your mom's looking for you. Do you want to come with me, buddy?" And he's saying, and like he's barely looking at me. And then finally, I knelt down and I just reached my one good arm out and I said, "Hey, buddy, if you come here and give me a hug, I can carry you to your mom." And he walked right into my arms and I picked him up and I carried him over to his mom. And I like carried him at that point is probably almost a quarter of a mile over to his mom from where I was with my one good arm. And she was very appreciative, of course, but I was wrestling with that one afterwards as a dad because, first of all, if my toddler went missing, I'd be a wreck, number one. Number two, I was there to lure this kid in for the sake of his safety. It would have been just as easy for someone who didn't have the best of intentions to say, "Hey, come here, buddy, give me a hug," and kidnap him and he's never seen again. So sorry to tell you the long-winded story, but all of that is to say I think the acts of service as a volunteer firefighter help to condition my mind to try to be an active force for good.